Welcome to the deep dive. It's funny how often we hear people talk about sleep like it's just, well, downtime.
Right. Like it's optional.
Exactly. For adults, it's often the first thing we cut to get more done, be more productive.
hmm
And for kids, it feels like it's mostly just about trying to avoid them being cranky.
The classic meltdown avoidance strategy.
Yeah. But what if that whole way of thinking is just wrong? Like fundamentally holding us back?
Oh, it absolutely is. We've really dug into some fascinating sources for this deep dive.
Yeah. What kind of things?
It's a real mix, some groundbreaking science, um, insights from pediatric sleep experts, and just a good look at what actually fuels peak human performance.
Okay.
And our mission today really is to unpack why sleep is so much more than just resting. It's like a foundational superpower, maybe even a secret one.
A secret superpower. I like that. For kids and adults.
Precisely, for those developing young minds and for, achieving your absolute best as an adult.
Okay, so we're not just going to say get more sleep and leave it at that.
No, no. We want to pull back the curtain a bit. Show the how.
Right, how sleep actually fuels learning, memory, creativity, even physical health.
And then give you some really practical, evidence-based ways to actually, improve your sleep, even with how crazy modern life is.
Because little changes can make a big difference.
Huge difference. So yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, first big idea. Sleep isn't passive.
Not at all. That's probably the biggest misconception we need to clear up right away. It's not an idle state.
It feels like it though, doesn't it? You just switch off.
It feels like it, but biologically, it's incredibly active, essential for pretty much every system in your body. Think of it as a busy time for your brain and body, not an off switch.
And for kids developing brains, this is like extra important.
Absolutely critical. I know you mentioned thinking it was just recharging.
Yeah, like plugging in a phone overnight.
Right. But our sources frame it as the actual fuel behind learning, memory, behavior, mood, and even physical growth. It's when the heavy lifting happens.
Okay, so what is happening then? During sleep?
Well, think about the different stages. You've got deep non-REM sleep that's really physically restorative.
Hmm.
And then REM sleep, where you usually dream.
Mm.
In both those phases, but especially deep sleep, a child's brain is actively working. It's consolidating new information, strengthening memories from the day.
So like sorting and filing everything they learned.
Exactly. It's regulating emotions, sharpening focus, improving decision-making skills. Here's the cool part. During that deep sleep, it's literally taking stuff they saw, heard, practiced during the day,
Yeah.
and moving it into long-term storage,
Mm-hmm.
helping them actually keep that new knowledge.
Okay, that is an aha moment.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It just clicks why it's so vital for kids, especially when you think about neuroplasticity.
Your brain's ability to change and adapt.
Yeah, which is like off the charts in early childhood. And sleep supports that whole process.
Deeply supports it. And you see it in the real world, too. The studies are pretty clear. Kids who sleep well, they tend to do better in school.
Makes sense.
They're more emotionally resilient, handle stress better, even have stronger social skills. It connects.
And this isn't just a kid thing. What about us adults?
Same principles apply, just maybe for different outcomes. For adults, sleep is tightly linked to your ability to think clearly, make good decisions, manage emotions.
Keep your cool under pressure.
Basically, yeah. And maintain physical health.
Yeah.
While you're out, your brain is consolidating memories, yes, but also doing critical maintenance, like clearing out metabolic waste products
Waste products from thinking.
from being awake and active all day. Yeah, kind of like taking out the trash. Plus, it's balancing neurotransmitters, the chemicals that control your mood and focus.
Okay, I've always heard that saying, sleep on it when you have a problem. Is there actual science to that?
There really is. That wisdom lines up perfectly with what we know about REM sleep.
The dreaming stage.
Exactly. During REM, your brain gets really good at making unusual connections, connecting ideas that seemed unrelated before.
Ah, so it's like brainstorming while you're asleep.
Sort of. Yeah. Studies show practical memory, learning new motor skills like playing an instrument or a sport can improve dramatically after just one night of good sleep.
Wow.
So if you're stuck on a big problem or feeling a creative block,
Don't just push harder.
maybe not. Stepping away, getting quality sleep, that might honestly be the most productive thing you can do. It feels counterintuitive, I know,
Totally does, especially with the whole hustle culture thing.
but the science is there. Let your brain do its work overnight.
Okay, so prioritizing sleep sounds great, but it can feel tough. Let's flip it. What are the costs of not getting enough? That sleep when I'm dead idea.
Ugh, that phrase. Yeah, let's talk about that. Because evolution itself tells us that's just scientifically backward thinking.
How so?
Well, think about it from a survival perspective.
Yeah.
For early humans, being asleep was risky, right? Predators, the elements.
Yeah, totally vulnerable.
Exactly. If sleep wasn't absolutely critical for something essential, evolution, which is all about efficiency, probably would have gotten rid of it or minimized it drastically.
Huh. I never thought of it like that.
But it stuck around for hundreds of thousands of years. That tells you something profound about its importance. So saying we can get by on, 5 or 6 hours, it just flies in the face of biology and evolution.
That really puts it in perspective. Okay, so what actually happens to our brains cognitively when we skimp on sleep? The numbers are kind of shocking.
They really are. Get this. Just being awake for 17 to 19 hours straight.
Hmm.
That impairs your performance as much as having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05%.
Wait, seriously, that's like legally impaired in some places.
Close to it. And after 20 hours awake, your brain function is pretty much equivalent to someone who is legally drunk.
Wow. Okay, so pulling an all-nighter before a big presentation, probably not the best strategy.
Definitely not. And it doesn't even take an all-nighter. Our sources show that even just a few nights in a row of getting 6 hours or less.
Which, let's be honest, is pretty normal for a lot of us.
Way too normal. Your cognitive functions just tank. Problem solving, reasoning, decision making, creativity, concentration, impulse control. Even just accessing memories gets harder.
So you're not just tired, you're actually less smart, less capable.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
And it hits your emotions hard too.
Yeah.
There's a study, I think UC Berkeley,
Yeah.
they found that in sleep-deprived people, the amygdala, that's your brain's fear and emotional reaction center, was like 60% more active.
60%? Whoa.
Yeah, so it's like your internal alarm system is stuck on high alert. You become more reactive, more prone to mood swings. You make more impulsive choices.
Okay, that explains a lot about bad days after bad nights.
And then there are the physical health risks, which are, frankly, quite alarming.
This is beyond just feeling run down.
Way beyond. Regular lack of sleep is now being flagged as a major risk factor for really serious stuff. We're talking increased risk of cancer, dementia,
Whoa.
heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity.
Yeah.
And it weakens your immune system, which is why kids often get sick more when they're sleep deprived.
It impacts everything.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Here's a really startling detail from the research. Biologists found that after just 1 week of people getting only 6 hours of sleep a night,
Just 1 week. Okay.
over 700 genes related to things like your body clock, your metabolism, inflammation, immune response, stress, they were all negatively affected. Their function changed.
700 genes in 1 week from just missing an hour or two a night.
Exactly.
Oh.
It shows how deep this goes. It's not just surface-level tiredness. It's messing with your fundamental biology at a molecular level.
That is sobering.
It really is. And think about that daylight savings connection you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the heart attack stats.
Right. Heart attacks jump 24% the Monday after we lose an hour in the spring. And they dip 21% the Monday after we gain an hour in the fall.
It's such a clear signal.
It's a massive population-level experiment, basically showing how sensitive our bodies are to even small sleep changes.
Okay, so this busts that myth about catching up on sleep on the weekend, right? The sleep bank idea.
Totally busts it. There is no sleep bank. You can't just deposit extra hours on Saturday to make up for deficits during the week.
But people try. I know I have.
We all do. But unlike calories, where you can kind of balance things out, the sleep system doesn't work like that. When you deprive yourself, you incur a debt that isn't easily repaid. The risks, cognitive, health, they linger.
So those all-nighters for exams or working crazy hours before a deadline, they're actually hurting performance in the long run.
Absolutely counterproductive.
Yeah.
You might feel a bit better after sleeping in, sure, but your underlying performance capacity and those health markers, they don't just snap back to 100% immediately. The damage accumulates.
And this must have an economic impact too, all this reduced capacity.
Oh, huge. One figure put the loss in the U.S. alone at something like $411 billion a year.
Billion from what?
Reduced productivity, people calling in sick more often because their immunity is down. It all adds up. Workers getting less than 6 hours are estimated to be about 30% less productive.
Wow. And that probably creates a vicious cycle, right? Less productive, so you work longer.
Exactly. Work longer, sleep less, become even less productive. It spirals.
Okay. So the big question then is, How much sleep do we actually need, and how do we know if we're getting enough quality sleep?
Right. Let's get practical. It varies quite a bit by age.
Especially for kids, the range is huge.
It really is.
Yeah.
Based on pediatric experts and the National Sleep Foundation, newborns, 0 to 3 months, they need a massive 14 to 17 hours total per day.
Wow. Basically sleeping all the time.
Pretty much. Infants, 4 to 11 months, it's around 12 to 16 hours, and that includes naps.
Okay.
Toddlers, ages 1 to 2, need about 11 to 14 hours. Preschoolers, 3 to 5, are looking at 10 to 13 hours.
Still a lot.
Yep. School-age kids, 6 to 12, generally need 9 to 12 hours. And it's key to remember, like you said, this includes naps for the younger ones, but that solid block of nighttime sleep. That's the really crucial foundation.
Got it. And for adults, what's the magic number?
The consistent recommendation is 7 to 9 hours per night. Not 6, not 5. 7 to 9 for optimal function.
And it's not just the hours logged in bed,
Yeah.
right? Quality matters.
Hugely. Quality over mere quantity. You can be in bed for 9 hours, but if you're tossing and turning, waking up frequently, you're not getting the restorative benefits of those deep sleep cycles.
So how can you tell? Especially with kids who maybe can't articulate, I slept poorly. What are the signs?
Good question. For kids, look out for things like increased mood swings or meltdowns. Definitely. Trouble focusing at school or on tasks.
Okay.
Sometimes what looks like hyperactivity can actually be a sign of tiredness. Difficulty waking up in the morning is a big one, and getting sick often that weakened immunity link.
Those are really clear signals, things parents can definitely watch for.
Absolutely. Your body or your child's body is telling you something isn't right.
Okay, we know why it's important. We know roughly how much we need. We know the signs of not getting enough. Let's talk solutions, practical steps.
Yes. Let's get into sleep hygiene. That's the term for the habits that promote good sleep.
And a big one seems to be light exposure, especially screens.
Oh, massive. That blue light emitted from phones, tablets, TVs, it directly suppresses melatonin.
Melatonin being the hormone that tells your body it's time to sleep.
Exactly. It's your natural sleep signal. Blue light basically hits the brakes on melatonin production.
So the rule is screens off before bed.
The crucial rule, yeah. Aim for at least 60 minutes screen-free before bedtime. For everyone, kids and adults.
An hour. That can be tough.
It can be, but the impact is significant. One study we looked at showed just 1 hour using an iPad before bed cut melatonin production by 55%.
55%?
Yeah, and it delayed the melatonin release by 90 minutes or more, and it reduced REM sleep just from 1 hour.
Okay, that's motivation right there. What should people do instead for that hour?
Think calming activities, reading a physical book, maybe some gentle music, drawing, quiet play for kids, and dim the lights in the house generally as bedtime approaches. That helps signal the wind down too.
What about people who say, but my phone is my alarm clock, or it's how I relax before bed? Any wiggle room?
That's a common hurdle. If a full hour screen-free feels impossible right away, start smaller, maybe 30 minutes. Use blue light filters or night shift modes on devices. Dim the screen brightness way down.
Okay.
Even better, charge the phone outside the bedroom. Remove the temptation altogether. Baby steps are still steps.
Good point. Okay, besides light, what about the actual sleep environment, the bedroom itself?
Super important. 3 key things. Keep it cool, dark, and quiet.
Cool. How cool?
The ideal range seems to be between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 18 to 21 Celsius. A cooler room promotes better sleep.
And dark means really dark.
As dark as possible. Blackout curtains are great, an eye mask if needed. For little kids, a very dim, low-watt nightlight is okay if it helps them feel secure, but avoid bright or blue-white lights.
And quiet. What if you live in a noisy area?
A white noise machine can be a lifesaver. Or even just a consistent fan noise. It masks those sudden, disruptive sounds.
Makes sense. Anything else for the room?
Decluttering helps. A calm, clean space is less stimulating. And think about bedding breathable materials like cotton. Help regulate temperature. Avoid scratchy stuff or strong detergent scents. For kids, letting them have a special comfort object is great.
And here's that bonus tip for parents again. Don't use the bedroom for timeouts. Keep it a positive, restful space.
Exactly. You want that association to be purely about rest and security, not stress.
Okay, what about things we consume? Diet, substances.
Big impact. Foods high in sugar or caffeine, and yeah, that includes chocolate, can definitely interfere. Limit caffeine, especially after 1 p.m.
Why 1 p.m.? That seems early.
Caffeine has a long half-life, meaning it stays in your system for hours. Consuming it later in the day spikes cortisol, that stress hormone that keeps you awake, right when you want it to be winding down.
Got it. Are there any good bedtime snacks?
Yeah, if you need something, think small and balanced. A banana with some nut butter, maybe whole grain crackers with a bit of cheese, or milk is classic for a reason. Or calming herbal tea like chamomile for older kids or adults, nothing too heavy or sugary.
And for adults, alcohol and marijuana. A nightcap to relax.
Actually, counterproductive for sleep quality. While alcohol might make you feel drowsy initially, it significantly suppresses REM sleep later in the night.
Ah, so it disrupts those important brain processes we talked about?
Exactly. Same goes for marijuana. Studies show it also messes with REM. Remember those day tremors in chronic alcoholics? That's the brain desperately trying to get the REM sleep it's been denied. It shows just how vital REM is.
Okay, good to know. For kids specifically, you mentioned overstimulation being a problem.
Huge problem. Packed schedules, eating dinner really late, high energy play right before bed. It keeps their little systems totally revved up.
In go mode, yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to switch off from that.
Impossible sometimes.
Yeah.
So the antidote is a consistent, calming wind-down routine.
Routine seems to be the magic word here.
For kids, absolutely. They thrive on predictability. A consistent bedtime routine acts like a series of cues to their brain. Okay, time to start winding down now. It reduces those bedtime battles because they know it's coming, and it helps them feel secure.
And this applies to adults too, right? Consistency.
Definitely. Going to bed and waking up around the same time every day, yes, even on weekends, as much as possible is key. It keeps your internal body clock, that circadian rhythm, running smoothly. Erratic schedules confuse it.
Can you give an example of a simple kid's routine?
Sure, a 30-minute one could be start with a warm bath or shower, say 10 minutes, then 5 minutes for brushing teeth, getting PJs on, then maybe 10 minutes of quiet reading together or telling a calm story. Finish with 5 minutes for good nights, hugs, kisses. Simple, predictable steps.
Nice and calm?
Exactly. Keep bedtime within the same rough 30-minute window each night. Avoid really stimulating play or intense conversations just before bed. And for little ones, visual routine charts can be amazing. They see the steps, they feel more in control.
Okay, this is all incredibly helpful. Let's try to wrap this up with the main takeaways.
Right, so quick recap. Sleep is fundamental. It supports memory, focus, emotional regulation, brain development across all ages.
Kids need a lot, anywhere from 9 up to 17 hours depending on age, including naps. Adults need that solid 7 to 9 hours nightly.
Quality matters. Watch out for signs of poor sleep, like moodiness or trouble focusing.
Key habits. Cut screens at least an hour before bed. Avoid sugar and caffeine late in the day.
Create that sleep haven. Cool, dark, quiet, comfortable bedding.
And the cornerstone. A simple, consistent bedtime routine. Signal to your brain it's time to wind down.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now?
It means sleep isn't a luxury, it's a tool. A powerful, accessible tool for your mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
Right. It doesn't cost anything, doesn't need fancy gadgets. It just needs intention and building those consistent habits, finding a rhythm that works.
I've heard people say after finally prioritizing sleep, it feels like their brain just switched back on. A fog lifts.
It's a noticeable difference. Because when you truly understand the science and make quality sleep a priority, you're not just resting, you're actively investing.
Investing in what?
In sharper learning, better emotional control, more sustained productivity day to day, and ultimately, in a happier, healthier, potentially longer life.
So the final thought then, don't think of sleep as something you trade for more awake time.
No. Think of it as the absolute foundation, the table stakes for actually performing at your best, feeling your best, living well.
So knowing all this now, what's the one small intentional change you're going to make tonight to start unlocking this amazing brain booster?